This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Welcome into the latest edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me on the 60-degree day, finally, some nice weather in the 50s and 60s, the sun. After a weekend where we had snow, it's finally nice to have an opportunity to get outside and do something. St. Patrick's Day, the NCAA tournament's about to start a little bit later on this afternoon. I can't wait to talk about everything going on with Michigan State, the Detroit Lions, and breaking down all the things in the world of Detroit sports. What's up, cuz? What's happening?
Man, there is so much going on. And like at this point, if you're listening to this, you're probably half of the bag. You're inebriated. You've been drinking green beer all day. I think it's fantastic. But we were talking a little bit pre-show, and I brought it up to you, and then just as you were about to answer, I totally cut you off. And I don't know if you want to start with college basketball as that's about to get underway, or if you want to start with the NFL. So where do you want to start first? Because we've got a jam-packed college basketball segment, and we've got a jam-packed NFL segment. And I want to know where you want to kick this bad boy off.
Let's start with the NCAA tournament, because
Then I'll save the one question I have for you for later.
Yeah, it was crazy because I honestly thought Michigan was going to be on the outside looking in. That loss in the Big Ten tournament, one and done, not even getting out of the first round, I thought would absolutely exclude the Wolverines. Well, little did I know, and I know the rankings and all that, they play good teams, but I also look at, did they beat good teams? They did. They beat Michigan State, Ohio State, had an opportunity to play a lot of good games, but they didn't have a winning record against Power 5 schools. Especially coming from the Big Ten, I didn't think that was going to fly. But, you know, their name popped up quick, so did Michigan State's. But I don't want to come off like sour grapes, but Michigan got a great deal out of this. I mean, they're going to go back to Indy. They're going to play a Colorado State team that everybody says is small. So Hunter Dickinson's going to get 25 shots, and Colorado State doesn't feature anybody over 6'8". I would have just been happy if they just flip-flopped. Give Michigan the opportunity to go to South Carolina. Let State go and play Colorado State and potentially Tennessee, and let's see what happens. But no, in this television show that we call the NCAA tournament, they have to have, in Mike Krzyzewski's last season, they have to have a potential matchup with Tom Izzo, which is fine. You know, I think Michigan State's not going to have a problem against Davidson. Against Duke, it just leads me to believe it's going to be a one-weekend deal for the Spartans. And I think Michigan has a really good chance to get to the Sweet 16 if they can maybe, outperform for whatever reason. And I think you'll attest to this as well. For whatever reason, Juwan Howard hasn't figured out how to properly use and allocate minutes for his bench at this point in time. You would think that he would figure out how to use his bench a little bit more. But sometimes when he makes his rotations and he has his substitutions, he doesn't make them in for long enough. And you recognize, man, that performance that they had in the Big Ten tournament was lackluster coaching at its finest. And like I said, I'm on the board of saying that Phil Martelli might have this team playing a lot better if he was fully in charge. There might be something there with him. But I think Michigan was caused by the universe to give them that draw and to I mean, how do they not? Okay, fine. You want to put them in the tournament? How do they not get in the playing game?
That's kind of where I'm at with it. I was totally shocked that they're an 11 seed, and being an 11 seed that's not in a play-in game is mind-blowing to me. This team has not looked good all year, and you're right. I think the better coach team's an 11 seed, and honestly, it looks like they have a little bit of home cooking because you're right. It doesn't really seem like they have to go up against anybody that is extremely daunting. It doesn't show up. Colorado shot as long as they come to play to beat Colorado State. I think they have a bit of a tougher draw against Tennessee, but after that, if they can get past this first weekend, they've got a great shot to make it to the Sweet 16 and possibly the Elite 8. It really shapes up that way for this team. They've got a lot of home cooking with their seeding and with their draw. I was totally blown away, especially by that performance in the Big Ten tournament. How do you go from having a 16-point lead or a 17-point lead into the second half and you blow it, and you blow it all? That was a game that they should have won. And you're right. A lot of questions have to be asked of Juwan for Phil Martelli. Juwan Howard steps back in during the Big Ten tournament, and this team seems to just shoot itself in the foot. I don't know if Juwan Howard just isn't listening to Phil Martelli. I don't know if Juwan Howard just thinks he knows it all. I'm not really sure what's going on, and I'm not really sure where this brain trust for Michigan basketball. But, man, it leaves a lot of questions to be asked, and we don't really have a whole lot of answers. It's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens as this season wraps up, because I think we're both kind of in lockstep here. One of us are really expecting a ton out of, as far as Michigan goes, again, completely shocked and awed that this team has an 11 seed, and it's not a play-in 11 seed, that they were just basically Colorado State. Just shocking, absolutely shocking to me. As far as Michigan State goes, look, this is a team that if they're playing well, if they get a little bit hot, they can do some damage. I think this team should beat Davidson, and I think this team will beat Davidson. And look, I don't think Duke's a very good team. Like last weekend, I was watching the Duke-NC State game, and NC State ends up taking care of Duke while Mike Krzyzewski's attempting to get sucked off during a retirement. So it was absolutely nuts. This Duke team isn't very good. And honestly, I think Michigan State can beat this Duke team. I don't think Michigan State should be scared of this Duke team. But that being said, Michigan State's been inconsistent, and they've been up and down. Both of these teams have been super up weekend, extremely difficult for both of these teams. What do you think about Michigan State's odds of getting past Davidson, getting past the winner of Duke, Cal State Fullerton?
Yeah, well, all I can do is hope that it's not Duke, because, look, Michigan State is just one of those teams that when you look at it, cause it's crazy. It's just one of those teams where they have the potential. They could shoot with anybody. If Max Christie, if, Walker and the point guards play well. But at the happen in the Big Ten tournament, they fold and they can go for long stretches without scoring the basketball. They struggle in transition, and they struggle with turnovers. So I think it's one and done. I think they beat Davidson. They get to the weekend, and it's a nice matchup against Duke, but in the end, Duke will take it down. I think that Michigan State and this year it's pronounced a lot more than other years. But this year, more than others, you just need that one more player that can get his own shot, and they don't have it. They don't, they have to really play solid basketball, work the ball around the floor, and find the guy that's open. But they can go cold real quick. Or I could see this team getting to the Final Four. They could also turn it around and get to the and get hot. And if there's a candidate to be an unsung hero, it could be Bingham on defense or Max Christie lighting it up a little bit on the big stage if he starts getting open. Back in the day, Michigan State would always have those guys that potentially got hot in the tournament. But I just don't see it. I see both potentially this year, and I'll ride the fence on this one. I think both win a game for Michigan and then followed by Sunday for Michigan State. And look how lucky I get. I get to wait up till Friday at 9:40 to try and struggle after a week off from the practice. I have 10 clients, so I'm going to be home. I might even be knocked out by the time the game gets started. That's how crazy it's going to be. 9:40 tip time. Whereas right now, as you guys are listening to this, the game could be already over. Michigan could already be eliminated by the time you're listening to this. I'm going to try to get this out right around the time the tournament starts. It's the first game. And did you hear that crazy story with Colorado State and that nonsense? I mean, the lack of professionalism by the NCAA to get these guys organized and figured out when they're going to fly. They're like, Monday night, they're sitting around going, and the coach is like, I think we should triple check this. And the athletic director's probably like, no, come on, it's the NCAA. They're not going to jack us around. They're not going to, and they're like, it's 11 p.m. We don't know when the hell we're getting there. They're like, huh? You didn't get informed? I didn't get informed? You don't know? I don't know? Oh shit, we got to figure this shit out. And by like 1 a.m. on Monday, they're still trying to worked it out. But the way in which the world works and how sometimes things fall through the cracks, it happened with Colorado State. But,
that's
for Michigan, it is crazy. It is crazy that, the coach and the media have to kind of go on Twitter and start going, well, Colorado State doesn't have a flight yet. And they're like, huh? Oh, it's the way it is. But yeah, I really just, in my opinion, I would be happy if it was reversed. If Michigan was, Michigan I think is in the East, right? And then Michigan State's in the South? Or whatever.
Michigan's in the South, Michigan State's in the West.
Okay. I wish it was switched. I wished it would be where Michigan was playing Davidson and Michigan State was playing Colorado. I think Michigan State is worthy of an 11 seed, but whatever. It's the way it is. It's going to play itself out.
Well,
in the end,
it's
a tournament. In the end, it's a tournament, and it falls where it falls, and you got to win no matter who it is.
Well, I think learned from this committee, at least this year, anyways, there was not a lot of emphasis put on what these teams did and what these teams accomplished down the stretch. The final couple of weeks didn't really seem to matter to these teams. That's why you've got a team like Indiana playing in a play, which, mind you, wasn't Indiana the team that beat the Big Ten tournament? Wasn't Indiana a team that made yet they've got to go and scrap and play early to get in? It's really weird the way this all kind of worked its way out, and it shows you what scheduling powerhouses will do for you. It shows you what winning, when you falter down the stretch and you don't play your back, get a bit of a pass. And I think Michigan, to put it bluntly, Michigan got a pass this year. They absolutely got a pass, and they're lucky. They're very fortunate to be seeded 11 seed playing in the South where they're playing. And look, I think they get by Colorado State, and I think they have a hard time getting by Tennessee. For some reason, they're fortunate to get past Tennessee. This team has a really nice shot to really make some noise in the Sweet 16. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how this all plays out. I think both these teams, both Michigan and Michigan State, I think they both lack a guy who can take a game over and really can break down a deep 1-on-2 for that matter. I think both these teams lack that guy who can really just whatever it is that they want to do, whether it's pull up for three, whether it's drive the basket. Both these teams really lack that one player who can transform and really take over and help a team win a game. So teams do in this tournament, either one of them making a deep run.
Yeah. Either one of these teams make a deep run. But I'm excited. I think that, I really like Kentucky. I mean, first time Calipari has some experience to take into the tournament. Gonzaga, do they finally get over the hump and handle their business? It's going to be interesting to see. And Matt Painter take a stride in the tournament. Does Tom Izzo have some magic left in it? And you never know. Maybe, the likes of Hunter Dickinson raises his game to a primetime attitude and as well can lead a team. And so he'll become, really have an opportunity to really shine on both ends. So be given their opportunities. Everybody, I think, is on a footing where it's a good – I like the way in which the announcement was made. Boom, get right into it. Let's go. Let's see what's going on. Michigan pretty much knew within the first 15 minutes what was up. And now we can break it all down and we can see what's going on in this tournament. I'm happy. I think this tournament has a chance to be fun. They're talking, and before we start talking about the Lions and free agency, they're talking that this tournament has the potential to have a lot of double-digit seeds advance into the Sweet 16. Got to find a way to get this bracket really popping in the DSP Listener Challenge, which you can sign up free. If you go to @Detroit Podcast, you can join free, fill out your bracket, get in listeners and the host here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. But it's going to be wild. I don't think it's going to be chalk this year. I think there's going to be a lot of wild upsets, and a lot of people are intrigued by how this tournament's going to shake out, especially with COVID, transfer portal. College basketball is a unique thing. That which team do you think right now is the favorite going into it?
In college basketball? In the tournament?
Who's the favorite?
Oh, man,
who's favorite?
It's
tough, right? Gonzaga,
yeah,
Kentucky?
I mean, it's one of those, you could see a couple of these double-digit seeds really make a lot of noise. Normally, everybody gets super excited when you have when you've got that 10 seed that rises up and pops a 5 seed. But I don't know. I feel like I don't really think there's anybody out there who really strikes me as being super lethal this year. I think if you forced me to pick, if you said you have to pick somebody, I think I would probably pick Gonzaga, but I'm not even confident in them making it all the way, But I would probably pick Gonzaga. Gonzaga would probably be my team.
Yeah, it's upon us. I can't wait to see how it shakes out. All right, here we go, cuz free agency has started, and boy,
all right, wait, hold on. Before we get into free agency talk, before we get into all of that, did you hear that crazy story about Tom Brady? Have you heard that news?
No. What crazy story is that? Is it about the gambling or the potential that somebody knew about it and went and made a huge bet?
No. It's the story about Tom Brady basically retiring and then going to take over the Miami Dolphins. But the lawsuit that the Miami Dolphins are embroiled in with Brian Flores kind of screwed it all up. Sounds like Tom Brady was going to go and be the general manager of the Miami Dolphins. And there were backdoor deals that were made with Stephen Ross. And of course, Stephen Ross, U of M alum, Tom Brady, arguably the greatest Michigan football player to ever come out of the University of Michigan, to come out of Ann Arbor. It sounds like there was a backdoor was going to go set up shop and be the new general manager of the Miami Dolphins. That was why he retired. And then the whole thing with Brian Flores and the lawsuit and everything that basically is embroiled kind of put that in the trash can, because if Tom Brady was to take over, obviously they would have to do some research. They'd have to look into this. But because of that, Tom Brady said no. Next thing you know, Manchester United game, seen with Cristiano Ronaldo, up in the owner's press box. And who owns Man U? Same person who owns the Tampa Bay Bucks. Next thing you know, Tom Brady's coming back. Have you not heard this story?
No, you're the first to. I heard whispers of something along the Brian Flores situation impacted Tom Brady, but I was busy and kind of poo-pooed and didn't get into it. Wow. He was going to definitely do something in football, and all of a sudden a twist happens where he's like, you know what, I want to come back, because it makes sense that he would have had a plan in place to do something instead of just go hang with his family. He was never going to just sit for a year and just chill out with the family, because even the most loving family person can only hang with his family for 2 months. So he probably had a job lined up. And I think that once he figured out, Miami, that place has the potential to be a cesspool. I don't want to have nothing to do with it. Absolutely, I can see that happening. And then he's like, you know what? Going back for a year, what really is going to be the risk for me? I can do what I got to do. I can play well. I can have my guy back in Gronk, get a running game for a year as opposed to the headache. And maybe he ends up running a team, but my God, why would you not run a team that could be a little further ahead? Maybe like the Chargers, or maybe get involved with an organization at the lower level, kind of have like an advisory role for a year. Chill out. Why are you going to jump in and, man, look at Tom Brady. The man wants to hustle, because if it was me, I'd be like, yeah, I want to join. I'm going to join the Patriots. And you can say, look, I can sit with, he could fire Bill Belichick. Because Belichick, I think the run is over. I think he'd be great to go back there. We're going to mutually part ways when everybody knows that Tom Brady could fire Bill Belichick and then move forward with the regime that he puts in place, or whatever organization, or hell, try it we'll end up.
Look, I think going to Miami makes perfect sense. Yeah. This is a guy who can basically step into a role, full carte blanche. Stephen Ross isn't going to tell him jack squat. Also, if you don't think Tom Brady's making GM-like moves as the quarterback of the Bucs, you're out of your mind. I think that was part of the reason why he ended up leaving New England, was he wanted, and Bill Belichick isn't giving you that, but you can get that over in Tampa Bay. You can get that when you go to Miami and you want to run that organization. I think it makes perfect sense. I think it would have been a great landing spot for him. I think it would have been a better spot if he would have had Brian Flores as his head coach. I think it would have worked out perfect because you've seen what Brian Flores was able to do with basically nothing. You get a GM in there, and these guys can kind of talk back and forth, and if they can find some common ground, and that's the issue. If they could find some common ground, I think it would have been magical in Miami. But it's interesting. I think this is a story that maybe we put a pin in and we come back in a couple of years after Tom Brady actually retires. I don't think anybody retirement. I think once he actually retires, we come back and we see which team he takes over and who he's the general manager of. And look, I think he's a great football mind. I think it'd be really interesting to see how he does as a general manager, though.
Okay, yeah, I can't. Wow, you blew my mind here on this podcast recording. Wow, Tom Brady, an executive, winning on the field and potentially now wants to go and win off of the field. Oh, man, I can't wait. Stay tuned. Yeah, the story I referenced was somebody made a huge bet that Tom Brady was going to return. And once the sports book realized something fishy is happening, they sent a message to the league and wanted the league to look into it because they potentially suspect that someone from the Bucs might have had inside knowledge or somebody that was affiliated with the Bucs passed information along because the bet was ridiculously huge and the timing of it just made everybody suspect a little bit. So it was interesting. And then you start seeing, football players, just gambling and stuff like that makes it so that I look into it and see if there was anything nefarious going on, especially when the money's that big. Because nowadays, bro, there are people regularly putting down 7-figure bets. And, now, and plus too, timing and everything like that. The sports book are not just going to say, oh, happenstance, somebody won $100K on Tom Brady returning. They're going to look into it and say, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? Especially in Florida. It's always nefarious. Shit happens all the time. And got to be careful. I'm curious to see how it all shakes out moving forward. All right. We're a couple days now removed from free agency beginning. The big move that ends up happening for the Lions broke the bank with the Ravens, 5 years, $70 million. I think it let a lot of people down. A couple different storylines with the Lions. It involves, hey, the band's coming back. They're running it back with Anceloni, running it back with Charles Harris, Tracy Walker, bringing their guys back. And a lot of deals were done with players that were already on the roster, which has kind of made people a little bit antsy. They missed out on all the big wideouts. Jacksonville kind of paid for Christian Kirk, which kind of raised the market, whereas teams were like, yeah, no, that's not the market. Jacksonville is just jacking up the market all over the place, and it's not an accurate reflection of how these wideouts are worth. So the Lions miss out. They don't take the chance on Allen Robinson, which was wise, because he's older. You don't want to pay him $15 million plus. Unfortunately, you get a guy that has good upside here online, because I don't know if you spent time. It seemed like the addition of DJ Chark Jr. was like adding Jerry Rice to some fans. Guys, it's a 1-year deal, 6'4", a true X wide receiver, but he has the biggest issue that plagues the Detroit Lions, which is somebody that is similar to Terrell Williams. Now, he's younger, got a big upside, and general manager Brad Holmes did the right thing by signing him to a prove-it deal short term. This guy's got to ball out. He's going to be hungry. He bet on himself. So you're set up for a win-win. But guys, remember, there's risk here involved in DJ Chark Jr. The guy has never played more than 13 games in a season. He's always hurt. He was out last year in week 4 with a fractured ankle. So, yeah, he got 1 year, $10 million, which is like essentially a franchise tag. But the blessing is that the Lions are not going to be greedy in free agency. They're going to build through the draft where they have 9 pieces that they can bring up. You can still get another wideout. So for me, I'm comfortable. I'm not like, oh my God, this team is tremendously better. I'm not like, oh my God, this team is tremendously worse. I was a little bit frustrated on Monday because 12 o'clock hits on Monday and you jump to announce that we signed Alex Anzalone, Sean Dion, and CJ Moore. I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes on the 1201 text that you brought the band back together. Guys, read the room. Wait till like 1 o'clock to announce Alex Anzalone, because the first thing that you saw under the announcement was why. You know, do you think that announcing that first, fans were like, why? Why are you running sign Tim Boyle? It's like, God, you know, that was the one for me that I could have did without. Tim Boyle had a year and he got hurt. And when he got in there, he didn't look like anybody that was worth developing. I mean, I would have went with more of a proven backup and allocated some funds there. So for me, that was the only one that I was bugged by. But, you know, you're bringing the band back together on defense, headlined by Tracy Walker, which is a town deal. He could have commanded $8-9 million. Maybe not in the market. He came back for $7 million. I'm happy with the deals that were signed. It was conservative, but at least players that want to be here, that want to run it back and want to try and turn things around. It's fine, but yeah, pump the brakes if you're thinking all these signings at this point make the Lions tremendously better. The narrative right now is not DJ Chark Jr.'s on the Lions. The narrative is, and it was asked Tuesday, criticizing the fact that all these Lions that were on the roster already are being brought back. And that's the narrative, is like, oh, it was a 3-win team. Most people would have been fine if all the free agents were gone and let go.
Well, here's the thing. This is my thought on what they've done with free agency. I think the plan is basically to add pieces, small pieces here or there. It's more nuts and bolts, right? I think this team is setting themselves up to be big players next year. I think this team is making moves positionally to set themselves up to be, to basically go, I don't want to say go all in next season, but they are putting themselves in a situation to be able to go out and sign that big name free agent or sign those big name free agents next year. This DJ Chark deal, I love it. I think it's great. This is a guy who you're bringing in who has all the upside in the world. His big issue is health. He's never healthy enough. He hasn't played a full season in his career. But this is a guy who is 2 years removed from being a Pro Bowl wide receiver. This is a guy who has speed. He's a big body guy, and you're giving him $10 million on a 1-year deal. So you're saying, go out there, show me that you can do it, and I'll give you more money next year. They're not going out and, like, Allen Robinson was a guy that neither one of us wanted the Lions to sign. And Allen Robinson's probably going to demand $40 million, right? So you basically got a guy who can separate better, who is like you said, he's a true stretch the field wide receiver, and you're basically paying him a quarter of what you were going to pay who everybody says was the number one wide receiver on the market, a guy that neither one of us wanted. Are there some issues with what they've done in free agency? Yeah, I think so. Going out and re-signing a lot of your own guys, and guys who aren't very good, like Tim Boyle, I don't care about that. I don't want to see that. I would much preferred them go out and grab somebody else. Alex Anzalone would have much preferred them spend that money someplace else. Josh Reynolds, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, would have much preferred them go spend that money somewhere else. But what you're seeing that they're doing is they've not boxed themselves in with this draft. I like the Tracy Walker signing. I like the DJ Chark signing. I like the fact that they were able to bring Charles Harris back. I think bringing back Harris and bringing back Walker were deals that they made that are smart plays. They seen something in those guys and they got a little bit out of them, and they were able to turn it back around in affordable, more talent. These guys, if any, rotational players. And again, their contracts that they signed aren't ridiculous. They don't demand that these guys start. So I like that. But what it also does is it allows you the flexibility for next season to be able to either move on from these guys, possibly trade these guys, or in this year's draft, I still think they're taking a wide receiver safety at some point. In this year's draft, I can still see them taking a linebacker. They set themselves up to where they're not pigeonholed, because they went out and they got a big name safety. They went out and got a big name wide receiver. This is something that I think you're seeing from Brad Holmes, at least in his first 2 years. He likes to have options, and he likes to set himself up to have those options. And that's what you're getting. This team by no means is confined to doing as fucking. So, a big name out there that they went and got, but this team has I think, played this properly to make moves in the draft, off season, with free agents from this front office, and I like what you're getting out of this front office as they go. And it's kind of what last year was. It was a lot of one-year deals, a lot of prove-it contracts. Here's the deal, sign it. If you want it, take it. And we're going to give you a chance to really show what you can do. And I think that's what you've seen with Tracy Walker and Charles Harris. I like it. I like what they're doing.
Absolutely, man. I like what you're saying. I like what's coming out of your mouth. I like the fact that with the Detroit Lions, it's something that you didn't offer DJ Chark 3 years, $30 million, 25 guaranteed. You're economical. You're doing something wise. You're doing something that looks like team building, which is through the draft. Win the press conference. You're trying to win out in the football field. And by and large, these decisions are fair. I mean, I think that, they have a lot of young talent that they're calling upon to take the next step. And I think that the opportunity will present itself for the Lions to do some things in the future. And remember, the cap is good, but it's not that good. The Chark Jr., you probably were going to be priced out a little bit for Marcus Williams. But, so far, so good. You don't come out losing. You don't come out being wildly ahead. But by and large, save your critique for pick number 2, pick number 32, pick number 34 in the draft. And when you see what they do with the extra compensatory picks, which have now been fully revealed, which everybody knew. They're not new. Everybody's been slotting them in the mock drafts that you see. So I can't wait to see it. I can't wait till the draft. Free agency was good. I think that we can give it a solid B+. Because you filled the need in the secondary with Tracy Walker. You have a lot of guys back. You have contingency with Alex Anzalone just in case. The contracts are not so restrictive that you can't even get rid of them. Like Alex Anzalone, if he struggles in training camp, you can move on from him. Charles Harris, I think, will take strides forward. I am happy overall with what I've seen, and it's impressive, and it's nice to see for now a Lions team kind of just taking a measured approach in free agency, and that's what has to happen moving forward. So I think free agency, but man, cause covering it's hard, man. I was like, oh my God, it's like sitting there waiting, and then at a moment's notice an announcement will come and you got to get it up there. It's tough, man. It's almost like 36 hours of just like, they're not just pumping out the big names. They're pumping out offensive linemen, guards, and stuff like that. They are, must be like their Super Bowl where they have the opportunity to get the information from their sources and put it out there. But yeah, 12:05 a.m. and you're getting offensive linemen, signing with the Bills. I'm like, dude, who cares? But, you got to be on. So that's how I've been. I've been like, oh my God, I don't want that job.
It's tough, man.
It's tough. Isn't it? It's tough. So how'd you take it in? Yeah, how did you consume it? How did you passively, how did you get into it? And did you passively get into it? Or did you like hardcore refresh Twitter nonstop?
A little bit of both. So with day one, I just kind of sat back and I just kind of kept track basically by Bleacher Report. However, the second and third day was a lot of going out and stalking the information. A lot of going on Twitter, refreshing, going to the Lions PR Twitter handle, which is absolute trash. Don't go there. Everything is a day late, dollar short. If you're looking for like breaking news, I think you've done a really good job of covering it and getting a lot of information out. Bleacher Report, obviously a standby for me. I get a ton of notifications from them. So first day was just kind of letting it all come to me. But since then, it's really been going out and trying to devour and consume it. Because I think the first day, there wasn't really anything big and splashy, right? There wasn't that big name. The next day, second day, was when you got your DJ Chark drop and whatever you think about it. I don't think he was a big name. I don't think he was the big guy. But I think it was a smart move for this team. I think everybody was going to happen. He's going to kind of price himself out. So it's just trying to see who's left and who you can kind of fill spots with, and what does that contract look like? And I think what you're seeing tells you a whole lot about what you're getting with this front office. I think they're really smart with a lot of the moves that they're making. I think it's a lot of underrated things that they're doing that might not be getting covered enough, might not be getting talked about enough, because you're not going out and you're not signing bad contracts, which is great.
Yeah.
Like, when was the last time you can say that as a Detroit Lions fan? Like, you've been impressed with your front office for doing smart things. You know, I have such a bad taste in my mouth from the previous regime, from getting rid of a guy like Quandre Diggs, getting rid of a guy like Darius Slay, who were really good players, and they gave them away for pennies on the dollar. Instead, you've got general managers going out there making moves with this organization, and they're basically getting really good players for pennies on the dollar. And I think it's a complete turnaround. It's weird to see a high functioning front office compared to what we've had in the past, and it's exciting to me.
Like we've said in the past, March, April, May is hope season, baby, here at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. We will be hopeful. We'll try to look for the positives. We'll try to discover ways in which this Lions team has gotten better. Look, they can't be no worse. So we're going to enjoy the ride. Yes, you've said it. And I think a lot more people have confidence that building through the draft will inevitably produce the results that you want. And the ultimate final exam will be who Brad Holmes picks to be the. Now you're doing a lot of good stuff on the quizzes, a lot of good stuff on the early tests. You were, thrown in a student that's a little bit, weak in the arm and things like that. And he was brought in from the delinquency class, and that's fine. You inherited Jared Goff, but you're looking now to get your guy. And who that will be. Could it be Malik Willis? Could it be Desmond Ridder? Could it be somebody else? Could it be 20? Have an idea. There's a couple names on the board that they got that they're probably targeting, and we shall see what the future holds. But right now, hopes are happy. Make sure to follow Adam on Twitter for more of his reactions to free agency at Adam R. STROZ. He would have been livid if Allen Robinson was the pick. He would have been upset if there were no free agency moves. Check out his Twitter page. Very funny and definitely a good follow. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Get your news from SI All Lions, si.com/NFL/Lions. Anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, find Detroit Sports Podcast, and all you got to do, hit that subscribe button, and our content will find you. Daily podcast, breaking down Michigan, breaking down things going on in the world of Detroit sports. The Tigers are back up and running. Pistons are nearing the end of their season. The Red Wings are limping along in their stretch for the playoffs. Tune in to Detroit Sports Podcast. And tune into our Twitter page. We'll make noise. We'll engage and have good content and good debate. Cuz is taking his 9th vacation of the year, so I wish you a great, great time in your time off.
You know what's messed up? They're all weddings.
Up?
They're all weddings that I have to go to.
I know. You got the best boss ever. I mean, you're like, can we change the schedule? I'm like, dude, you changed the schedule. You know what's funny? Real fast before we get out of here. Because you changed the schedule, my timing is all off earlier. So I'm like, wait a minute, do I take out the garbage today? I'm like, oh no, because we have doing the podcast. It's like, oh my God, we've done this for 8 years. And I'm like, I was looking at it, I'm like, Jesus, this guy is out here, gallivanting to Colorado, gallivanting to Florida. I'm like, Jesus, I gotta take more vacation. I do a lot of staycations, but this guy is balling, and I gotta get out to these, destination weddings. I've gone to one. I liked it in Mexico. But your lady friends got you going all over the place. I like it. Less work, more vacation for Adam. I like that philosophy.
I normally, like, the day we're recording this, it's I don't know. It just throws everything off. So okay, we've done it, like you said, we've done it a certain way for so long that into routine.
Man. Yeah, absolutely. So I wish you good travel, good times. Be careful with, the antics at the wedding. You gotta to handle business properly and get back safely so that we can continue our run here at the Detroit Sports Podcast. We're almost near 500. We're on our path to 500 Detroit Sports Podcasts. I can't wait. Thanks, guys. Podcasting time is over. Thank you, guys. You give us the energy we need to keep broadcasting, keep podcasting in the world of Detroit sports. Thanks, guys. Tune in next week.